What would you do if someone you trusted, someone you called family, tried to destroy everything you've worked for? That's exactly what happened to me. My sister-in-law didn't just sabotage my business, she went behind my back to tear down everything I had built. But she didn't see what was coming next. I stood at the counter of my office, staring at the email in disbelief. My hands, which had spent years typing proposals, analyzing data, and managing clients, were now trembling as I reread the message. It was from one of my most loyal clients, one of the people who'd helped my business grow from the ground up. The subject line read, "We regret to inform you that we are terminating our contract." The reason? After careful consideration and recent concerns from a close family member, we've decided to go in a different direction. I blinked, trying to process the words in front of me. A close family member? What was this even about? I had no clue what this meant, but I had a sinking feeling in my gut. I reached for the phone, dialing the number I knew by heart. "Hey Claire, it's Lena," I said, my voice shaking. "I just got your email and I'm a little confused. Could you explain?" There was a brief pause on the other end before Claire's voice came through, a little more hesitant than usual. "Lena, I hate to do this over the phone, but it's really nothing personal. You know how much I value the work you've done for us." She paused again like she was gathering her thoughts. "But my sister-in-law?" The words hit me like a punch in the stomach. My sister-in-law? Valerie, my brother's wife, whom I had welcomed into our family with open arms. I had helped her with her small side projects, given her advice on everything from business branding to client outreach. She had always played the role of the supportive, loving wife, at least that's what I thought. "Wait, what happened?" I asked, already dreading the answer. "Did Valerie say something to you?" I don't know all the details, Lena," Claire continued, her voice apologetic. "But she expressed some serious concerns about working with you. She told me that your business might be struggling and that it might not be the best decision to stay on board with you right now." Honestly, it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting this, but you know how she can be when she gets an idea in her head. I felt my chest tighten as I fought to stay calm. Valerie had always been a bit critical, especially when it came to my work. I never really understood why. I had always supported her when she needed guidance, yet somehow she seemed to resent my success. But to actively work behind my back to ruin my business? That was a betrayal I never saw coming. "I don't know what to say, Claire," I finally muttered, trying to process everything. "I'm just shocked." "I'm really sorry, Lena," Claire said softly. "I don't want to lose your business, but at the end of the day, I have to listen to what my family says. I hope you understand." I didn't. I really didn't. But I knew there was nothing I could do to change her mind in that moment. The damage had already been done. I hung up, staring at the empty office around me. My small but growing business had been a dream come true. Every sleepless night, every sacrifice I made to get here had been worth it, until now. I wanted to call my brother, ask him what in the world was going on with Valerie. But I knew I had to handle this myself. The last thing I needed was to make this a family drama that would affect my work and personal life even more. Valerie didn't just want to destroy my professional reputation. She wanted to take down everything I had worked for, something that had been mine and mine alone. And she thought she could do it by using her influence with the people closest to me. I took a deep breath, pushing the wave of frustration and anger down. This was only the beginning. I wouldn't let her win, not without a fight. The next few days were a blur. The phone calls from clients I thought I could count on turned into more disappointing rejections. One by one they came, each one explaining how they were stepping away from my business, citing personal concerns or family advice as their reasons. It was clear that Valerie's influence was spreading like wildfire, and I had no way to stop it. I couldn't focus at work. I couldn't even look at my computer screen without feeling a pit in my stomach. My business was crumbling, and I wasn't sure how to hold it together. Valerie, with her perfect life and perfect family, had somehow managed to use her position to tear apart everything I had fought for. But the worst part? She hadn't even confronted me directly. She had done this behind my back, making calculated moves to ruin my reputation while keeping her hands clean. I needed answers, but I didn't know where to start. I couldn't go to my brother, not yet, not with everything so up in the air. I needed to find out what Valerie was really saying, what lies she was spreading, and how deep her interference went. It wasn't long before I found out. One evening, I received a text message from an old business acquaintance, Mark, who worked for a local marketing firm. His text was short, but it was enough to send a chill down my spine. Just got a call from Valerie. She mentioned you might be overstretching yourself. Your business has been losing clients, and she's worried about your reputation. I stared at the phone, rereading the message. The message wasn't a surprise. Valerie was always quick to talk down on my work whenever she could. But to use my reputation as ammunition? That was a new low, even for her. Mark's text made me realize just how far Valerie's reach had extended. She wasn't just telling a few clients to stay away. She was poisoning the well, making sure people in my industry were hearing the same lies, the same doubts about my abilities. It was a deliberate campaign to ruin me, and I had to put a stop to it. I decided to take action. I couldn't keep waiting for things to fall apart. I needed to find a way to get ahead of the narrative Valerie was spinning. So, I did what I always did when I faced a challenge: organized. I started calling the clients who had pulled out, scheduling meetings with them one by one, even if it meant driving across town at odd hours. It wasn't enough to just reach out with emails or messages anymore. I needed to show them who I was, what I was capable of, and prove that the rumors Valerie was spreading were nothing but lies. But the most painful part? The people who knew me best, who should have been supporting me the most, weren't showing up. My family, the people who knew how hard I worked to get here, weren't picking up the phone, weren't answering my messages. I had tried to reach out to my brother, but his responses were vague, dismissing my concerns. It was like they didn't want to know the truth. They didn't want to confront Valerie's actions, even if it meant destroying everything I had built. I had to fight this battle alone, and the thought of it made the task ahead feel even more overwhelming. But as I stared out my office window one night, I realized something. Valerie had made a mistake. She had underestimated me. She thought she could break me. But what she didn't see coming was how determined I was to rise above her sabotage. I was going to fight back, and I was going to do it in a way she never expected. A few days later, the weight of everything was starting to crush me. My client list had dwindled even further, and each day felt like I was running on fumes, exhausted from trying to salvage my business while dealing with the betrayal of someone I had considered family. The idea that I had to rebuild from scratch, again, felt unbearable. But then, something surprising happened. I was at my desk, going through a pile of rejection emails, when I received an unexpected call from Jenna, one of my former colleagues who now worked with a competing firm. Jenna had always been the type to keep to herself, rarely offering opinions or getting involved in office drama. We had exchanged pleasantries every so often, but never anything beyond work-related matters. When I picked up, her voice was warm but urgent. "Lena, I need to tell you something. This isn't easy, but I think you should know. Valerie's been telling people that you're struggling, saying things about your business that just aren't true." Her voice dropped to a whisper, as if she was worried someone might overhear. My heart raced. Wait, what exactly has she been saying? Everything. That you're overworked, that your client base is shrinking, that you're not as reliable as you used to be. Honestly, Lena, she's been going out of her way to discredit you, and I can't stand by and let her do that. I leaned back in my chair, my mind spinning. Jenna's words were confirmation of everything I had suspected. Valerie's campaign of sabotage wasn't just about isolating me from clients, it was about trying to break me from the inside out. It wasn't enough for her to hurt my business. She wanted to make sure my entire reputation was destroyed. But why? "Jenna, I don't know what to say. I thought I could handle it. But this is something else." I felt a pang of gratitude and disbelief. Was this really happening? "I'm not the only one who's noticed, Lena," Jenna continued. I'm sure you've been feeling the pressure, but you're not alone. Other people in the industry are aware of what she's doing. I'm not going to let her get away with this. I felt my shoulders relax for the first time in days. Maybe I hadn't been completely abandoned after all. I appreciate this, Jenna, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But why are you helping me? You work for another firm. This could be bad for you too. Jenna's tone softened. Because I know you, Lena.
I know how hard you've worked, and I can't stand seeing someone who deserves to succeed being dragged down by petty jealousy. You don't deserve this. Her words hit me like a wave. There was no denying it. Valerie's actions had hurt me deeply, but this moment reminded me that not everyone had turned their backs. There were people who still believed in me. I'm going to help you, Jenna said firmly. I've already had a conversation with some of the contacts we share. We're not going to let her win. I didn't know what to say at first. My mind was racing with possibilities. Jenna had just opened a door I hadn't even considered. She didn't have to help me. She could have just kept quiet and let things play out. But she didn't. And in that moment, I realized something important. I wasn't as alone in this battle as I had thought. Valerie might have tried to destroy me, but I had people who cared about me, people who were willing to stand by my side. I'm in, I said, a renewed sense of determination filling me. Whatever it takes. Good, Jenna said, with a hint of a smile in her voice. We'll get your business back on track, and Valerie will realize she made a huge mistake. As the call ended, I sat back in my chair and let out a breath I didn't even realize I had been holding. Things were looking up. I still had a long way to go, but with people like Jenna in my corner, I knew I had a fighting chance. The following week, everything started to fall into place. Jenna wasn't the only one who stepped forward. I began hearing from other people in the industry who had also been on the receiving end of Valerie's manipulations. One by one, I was gaining back the trust of clients who had hesitated, who had fallen prey to the lies Valerie had spread. Slowly but surely, my phone started ringing again. Emails began filling my inbox, and the sense of dread that had clouded my thoughts lifted just a little. But it wasn't easy. There were days I still doubted myself. There were days when Valerie's words echoed in my mind. You're overstretching yourself. You can't handle it anymore. You're not reliable. And every time a new client would back out or a new rumor would surface, I could feel that old fear creep back in. Was I really cut out for this? Was my business as shaky as Valerie made it seem? But the more I fought against those doubts, the stronger I became. The more I focused on rebuilding, the clearer it became that Valerie's lies weren't just unfounded, they were utterly ridiculous. I'd built my business from the ground up, and I had seen it survive challenges before. I had more resilience than she'd ever anticipated. One day, as I was leaving my office for a meeting, my brother called. I had been avoiding him for weeks now, too afraid that the conversation would turn into an uncomfortable confrontation. But today, something in me told me it was time to face him. Hey, I answered, trying to keep my voice neutral. Lena, I've been hearing things about Valerie from some of the clients, and I need to apologize. I didn't know she was doing all this. I stopped dead in my tracks. My heart pounded as I processed his words. For the first time in weeks, I was hearing something I hadn't expected. An apology. What do you mean? I asked cautiously. I should have listened to you when you first said something, he continued. I guess I was too caught up in defending her. But I know you, Lena. I know how hard you've worked. And I can see now that Valerie's been overstepping. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I stood there in shock. This wasn't just about the business anymore. This was about family, about trust, betrayal, and the years of pent-up frustration I'd been carrying. My brother had finally acknowledged what had been happening all along. Valerie had used her position in the family to manipulate him, to control the narrative, and now that the truth was coming to light, he was beginning to realize it. It's not just about the business, I said, my voice thick with emotion. It's about the way she's treated me, the way she's treated us, like I'm not enough, like I'm not worthy of their support. I get it, Lena, my brother said quietly. I was wrong, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make it right. I didn't know what that meant yet, but it was a step in the right direction. For the first time, it felt like I wasn't fighting this battle alone. It felt like, finally, The truth was getting through. The moment of reckoning arrived sooner than I expected. Valerie, ever the schemer, hadn't been content just to sabotage my business in the shadows. No, she had to show up in person. The drama-loving, attention-seeking woman she was. It happened one afternoon when I received an invitation from a business networking event, a gathering of influential people in our industry. I had been hesitant at first, but I knew this was my chance to show Valerie that I wasn't going to let her control the narrative. If I was going to rebuild my business, I had to show the world that I was still strong, still capable. The event was held at a high-end venue downtown, filled with professionals in sharp suits, offering business cards and exchanging pleasantries. As I walked into the room, I could feel my heart racing, but I knew I had to hold my ground. I wasn't going to let Valerie steal the spotlight, or worse, sabotage my reputation any further. I spotted her immediately. She was standing in a corner, chatting with some of the most influential people in the room, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd as she grinned widely. I could feel the weight of her gaze from across the room, and I knew she was already sizing me up. She wanted to make sure she could ruin this event for me, just like she'd ruined everything else. But this time, I wasn't going to let her. I approached a few colleagues, making small talk, gathering momentum. I could see Valerie watching me from the corner of her eye, and I could practically feel the tension building. Then, unexpectedly, my brother walked in. He hadn't mentioned that he would be attending, and I was surprised to see him here, especially considering everything that had happened. He gave me a small nod as he approached. "You doing okay?" he asked, his voice low. "I'm fine," I said, forcing a smile. "We're going to get through this." Just as I spoke those words, Valerie walked up to us, her smile as fake as ever. Well, well, if it isn't the successful businesswoman herself. "I'm surprised to see you here, Lena," she said, her voice dripping with condescension. I could feel the anger rising, but I kept my voice steady. "What do you mean, Valerie? I'm here to network. I'm here to show the world that my business is still strong." She raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "Is that so? Because I've been hearing some things. I heard you've been losing clients. Some people are even questioning your ability to handle a business at all." I stood tall, looking her in the eye. "I've heard the same rumors, Valerie. Funny though, none of them are true. My business is thriving, and everyone who matters knows that." There was a brief silence as Valerie's smile faltered. For a moment, she didn't know how to respond. Then she did what she always did. She tried to deflect. "You can't fool people forever, Lena," she said, but there was less confidence in her tone now. Before I could respond, my brother stepped in. "Actually, Valerie, I think Lena's right. I've been hearing some very different things from some of the people who've been working with her. And frankly, I'm disgusted by what I've heard you say about her behind her back. It's time we all stop pretending." The room went silent. Valerie's face went pale as her carefully constructed mask of confidence slipped away. I felt a rush of victory, not just for me, but for the truth. Valerie's web of lies was falling apart, and she had nowhere to hide. Valerie's face turned a shade of red I hadn't seen before. For a moment, it was as if she was trying to gather herself, but the damage had already been done. People who had once nodded politely when she spoke now exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of confusion and disbelief. "You don't get to manipulate the narrative anymore, Valerie," my brother continued, his tone steady but firm. "You've been using your position to tear Lena down, and it stops now." I could see Valerie's carefully built defense crumble. Her eyes darted around the room, seeking out the support she usually had from our family and the few clients who still favored her. But this time, no one came to her aid. Her usual power over people, her charm, her ability to twist the truth, wasn't working. She was exposed, vulnerable for the first time. "Everyone here knows what you've been doing, Valerie," I said, my voice growing in strength as I stood beside my brother. "You've been trying to tear me down for months. You've spread lies, manipulated clients, and tried to ruin everything I've worked for. And for what? Because I'm succeeding? Because I've worked my ass off to build something that's mine." There was a moment of silence as the weight of my words hung in the air. Valerie opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. For the first time, she didn't have a clever comeback or an excuse. She was cornered, and she knew it. "We're done here," I said, taking a deep breath. "Your lies aren't going to work anymore. I'm not going anywhere." And with that, I turned to walk away, but not before I caught the look in my brother's eyes. There was a mixture of regret and realization there, something that told me he had finally come to understand just how deep the manipulation had gone. For the first time, I felt like we might be able to rebuild. Not just my business, but my relationship with him. The room buzzed with murmurs, people unsure of what to say. But Valerie was alone now, and her power had slipped through her fingers. In the weeks that followed, Valerie's attempts to sabotage my business slowly but surely fell apart. News of her manipulation spread, and with it came a tide of support. I had clients returning, some even apologizing for falling prey to her lies. It wasn't just about repairing the damage she'd done. It was about proving to everyone, especially myself, that I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. My brother and I had a long conversation after the event. He was genuinely remorseful for not stepping in sooner, and while it couldn't undo the damage, it was a start. I could feel the strain lifting between us as he began to take responsibility for his role in allowing Valerie's actions to go unchecked. "Lena, I don't know how I missed all of this," he admitted one evening, his voice heavy. "But I'm here now, and I'm going to help you fix this. You're not doing this alone anymore." It was a relief to hear him say it. The years of feeling like I had to fight everything on my own, family, business, success, were starting to fade. I wasn't alone anymore, not in this. As for my business, it was stronger than ever. I had made new connections, forged stronger bonds with my clients, and most importantly, I had found my confidence again. Valerie's lies couldn't touch me now. The foundation I'd built was solid, and it wasn't going anywhere. I even managed to expand. The clients I had once lost were coming back, and new opportunities were opening up. My business wasn't just surviving the storm, it was flourishing in the aftermath. Valerie had underestimated me. She thought she could break me with her lies and jealousy. But what she didn't see coming was the strength I had within me. What she didn't understand was that a woman who could build something from nothing didn't need anyone's validation to succeed. She thought she could tear me down, but in the end, all she did was help me rise higher. A few months after the event, I found myself sitting in a cafe, waiting for an unexpected visitor. It was a simple message from Valerie, asking for a meeting. Part of me was hesitant. I had no interest in rehashing the past or wasting time on someone who had tried to destroy everything I had worked for. But a small part of me also wondered if she had come to terms with the fact that her manipulation had failed. When she walked in, I barely recognized her. The confident woman who had always seemed so sure of herself now appeared deflated, like a balloon that had lost its air. She looked around the cafe before sitting down, clearly uncomfortable in the quiet public setting. "Lena," she started, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. I wanted to apologize. I know it's been a while, and I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that what I did, what I tried to do to you, it was wrong." I didn't respond immediately. I wanted to, but I needed to hear her out. "I was jealous. I saw you succeeding and I couldn't handle it," she continued, looking at her hands on the table. "I've always felt like I've been living in your shadow, and instead of being proud of you, I sabotaged you." I could feel a small part of me soften, but the wounds weren't fully healed. "You went behind my back, Valerie," I said, keeping my tone even. "You tried to ruin me, and you didn't just attack my business, you attacked my integrity. That's not something I can just forget." She nodded, her eyes filling with remorse. "I know. I can't undo what I've done. But I want you to know that I'm sorry. For everything." I took a deep breath, looking her in the eye. "I've worked hard for everything I have. I don't need your apology, Valerie, but I do need to move on from this, and I'm finally able to do that." For the first time, I saw the woman I once thought of as family for what she really was. Someone who was weak, consumed by her own insecurities. And for the first time, I realized that I didn't need her approval or anyone else's. I had built my success on my own terms, and no one, least of all Valerie, could take that from me. "I'm done with this chapter," I said, standing up to leave. "Goodbye, Valerie." And with that, I walked out the door, my head held high. The path ahead was clear. No more distractions, no more doubts. Just me and my business. And this time, nothing was going to stand in my way.